Hi, and welcome to another insightful episode of 10x Marketer podcast. Today, I have Ameet Khabra with me. She is one of the leading PPC experts and founder of Obskip Media. We've spoken to her on a couple of topics, including how ad copy performance differs in human versus AI written ad copies. She had some interesting insights to share about one of the live experiments she did on AI versus human ad copies. Before we jump into the episode and listen to what Amit has to share, can I request you all to subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast wherever you're listening from? We are available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube channel. So let's jump in and listen to what Amit has to share.
So I'm Ameet Khabra. I am the AdWords girl everywhere on the internet. I own a advertising agency or a PPC agency called Hopskip Media, and I've been in the industry for 16 years now, something like that. So long enough that I've forgotten.
Yeah, so it's hard to remember after 15 years. Maybe after 10 years, you don't actually want to remember how many years you have spent in the industry. After all, that's a long
Yeah,
time,
after
right?
10 years, you start to feel a little old. So
You don't want to give the exact number after 10 years. So,
exactly.
Amit, I got interested in talking to you after I read the content about human versus AI copy. And I think you have been talking about it, you have been writing about it. So, first question is what really inspired you to conduct this kind of study? Was the trigger for this?
Google, honestly. There was a lot of talk about AI at that time, and this was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, where they had started these conversations um about AI and stuff and how they were going to start incorporating more of it into the platform, and that kind of got me thinking a little bit more. And this is when ChatGPT started coming into play, and everyone started using that for copy and writing content. And I remember just sitting there and always wondering, I'm like, what are the implications? And I understood from an SEO standpoint that using obviously AI generated copy wasn't necessarily going to put somebody ahead just because, I mean, technically it's copyright infringement really at that point. But um, so then I kind of sat there and I was like, what about for ad copy? Like, what happens there? So we ran the test for, I believe it was only about 8 weeks. I want to say. And then about 2 to 3 months later, Google announces that they were going to add generative AI into Google Ads. So I was like, the timing of this was almost like just perfect. So that was kind of really it. It was just knowing that ChatGPT had just been kind of thrown out to the public, everyone was using it, and then my own curiosity just for paid ads kind of came into play, and that's really mainly the reason why we ran the study in the first place was just curiosity.
Great. So, other important aspect of this study is your methodology. How do you really compare, and then how do you stay fair? Because AI is not representing itself; it's only the human that is analyzing the results. And maybe the fairness is one question which you can answer better rather than my speculations.
Uh, I in a test like this, especially when Google's the one who's kind of controlling the percentage of impressions that ad is getting, in theory, I guess it's not necessarily the most fair, but at the same time, um, there was only really one way for us to really do it from where I was standing, where it was just we have one RSA that was written by human, one RSA that was written by AI. The AI one wasn't touched at all. We literally just wanted to see what would happen. Because we know with AARs, like the auto applied recommendations, um, Google just auto applies them if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't told them not to. So then I sat there and I was like, eventually at some point when generative AI gets in, it's probably going to be added as an AAR. And eventually at some point, some businesses are going to end up having this ad copy that's strictly written by AI, admittedly from a website and stuff like that, but strictly written by AI. They're not going to have any alterations to it. I wonder what that difference between the human versus the AI side of things. So that's why we didn't touch the AI copy at all. It was just again curiosity. But in terms of being fair, it was just really keeping them in the same ad group, which in if you think about it, isn't necessarily the smartest thing to be doing, but at the same time, we didn't really know what other method to kind of test it out. So that was the best way for us to kind of remain fair, was to give them an equal shot at whatever keyword that was being triggered at that time.
So, for the benefit of the audience of this podcast, let's talk about the results first before we get into the more questions about this study and what are the implications. What was the result when you compared the two studies, two copies, and like ultimately, if you can define in 5 6 points, like these are the stark differences in results in the copy, writing style, and everything.
Yeah, I mean, really at the end of the day, the results were basically as what I think everybody else would have expected them to be. Um, I believe we saw it was, if not double on the clicks,
Mm-hmm.
almost double on the impressions. There was a big drastic change between CTR where it was 3.65 compared to 4.98.
Mm-hmm.
And then CPC was sitting at $6.05. And for the human written one, it was $4.85.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of see the difference right there, and
Yep.
it's pretty drastic. And admittedly, I think we only spent $500, but even in there, you can kind of really see where the money was kind of shifting and where it was really wanting to
Mm-hmm.
go. When it comes to what was really learned on that front is just kind of echoing. I feel like I don't know if everybody else has been saying it. I know that I've been repeating myself a lot, so this feels like old news to me right now, but just the human AI collaboration side of things, really having humans being not even being the person, being the oversight over everything. Yes, we should trust AI, but we shouldn't, or yeah, we should trust AI, but we shouldn't believe it blindly, is kind of my thought process. We already know that all the GPTs have kind of created or falsified information time and time again. But we have to be the ones to kind of go in and actually make sure that that is actually correct. So with AI, I really like the idea of using it for the scalability and the efficiency of it all. But humans really need to come in with the creativity, the strategy in particular, because AI is just not able to figure that out quite yet. And then also the ethical considerations, which are a very big one as well.
Yeah, so ethical part, obviously, that is the most important thing, but most people are setting that aside for maybe governments to decide on the regulations. So let's not get into that right now because that's not the topic that we want to discuss at this episode. Maybe in future episodes we can have another one. So
Mhm.
uh, I mean, your study was around 1.5 years ago, right? Almost 1 year ago, and there's
Yeah, about that.
lot has changed in last 1 year when it comes to AI. More people are adopting AI, and almost everywhere in any ad platform you see a lot of ad copies. Even people have custom GPTs. There are custom tools that do a lot of analysis of existing ad copies and then they come up with new ones. So, one, do you plan to repeat this study maybe this year? That's one. And second, how you have been incorporating AI in your ad copies after this study and this awareness that there is a stark difference between your human ad copy and an AI generated ad copy. I'll also talk about, but I don't want to have a lot of questions in one go. There's a follow up question to this.
That's totally fair. In regards to doing the study again, we have talked about it. I really want to add in landing pages and see what it looks from like full funnel wise. But we just haven't figured out exactly how to do it because now we've got human, AI, and then human and AI. So now we've got three variables on three, like it's just too many variables, and I haven't been able to visualize it in a way that makes logical sense. So that might take a couple more months for me to either full on figure it out or just kind of walk away from the idea, unfortunately. So yeah, check back in a couple months on that one. But I really want to. I really want to see what happens on the landing page side of things. Because I do know that a couple studies have come out saying that if you mention that your product or your SaaS tool or whatever has AI, it's actually proven to reduce your conversion rates. So I'm wondering on the flip side of that, if we're using AI to write our copy, well, does that have the same effect or do people not notice? Is it just the notion of saying that AI is somewhere that's deterring them? Like, yeah, my mind goes in multiple different directions. So yeah, eventually at some point I would like to. Um, and oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot the second part of the question. I went off on my
Second
tangent.
part was about humanizing the like you also talked about that part, right? Humanizing the ad copy. And see, the other important aspect is even if it is AI generated, the prompts were written by human, right?
Hmm.
That's one. And second, there's a huge impact of human element. Like AI is not trained on something from outside the world. It's not the aliens who are writing for AI. They're only reading or consuming what we have already produced as humans, right? So it can't be like we can completely blame the AI for whatever output we get from it. And second, the humanizing aspect, obviously, that is important. And as you rightly pointed out, when you talk too much about AI in your marketing, in your communication, like we do everything with AI, people get one, they get speculative about will that really help us, and second, are you really putting effort? So I mean, when somebody says that I'm the AI marketer, or I use AI a lot, the first thing that comes to my mind is someone who is talking I'm talking to right now is kind of lazy person and he's dependent on AI for everything.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I feel like it depends on how you're using it. And like the original question is kind of coming back to me. It was just how we're using it in ad copy and stuff like that. Um, And for us, it's more of an ideation tool, if anything. So our copywriter, Juliana, will just put in like the company information and be like, give me a couple ideas so I can kind of get started. And then she'll go off and kind of either make iterations to the headlines that the AI has created for us, or she has a launching pad on that front. In regards to like even just using it for content that we're creating, I use it more so of like a gap identifier. So I'll write an article based off of what I think should be in there, and then I'll go back to a GPT and be like, can you find the gaps? Like, what information did I miss? Um, and that's been really, really great and really cool to have because sometimes I won't even think about, oh, like quality score would have been really cool to add into this conversation, but I didn't think of it, where the GPT will. So that's kind of basically how we've been using it. And now we're trying to introduce it into reporting, which has been really, really interesting. Not in the sense of writing our reports full out, it's just taking our notes and summarizing them. But we're just trying to find a way how to use it in a so that we can streamline a lot of our work that we don't necessarily need to be spending hours and hours on. Um, so yeah, it's been kind of interesting. We're trying to adopt it as much as we possibly can, but not so much that like you said, it kind of comes off lazy.
Yeah. So I didn't intend to
No,
mean
no, no,
that.
no. I totally get it. I totally understand it. I just mean like I don't want it to like I don't want us to be fully dependent on it, right? Like I think
Yes.
our real advantage here is literally what's in between our ears, right? Our minds are the greatest things, and I've carefully selected these people that I have on my team. I want to use their brain as much as I possibly can.
Yes.
So it's
So
kind of like that fine balance of like how do I get better utilization out of it using AI really at this point? Like how do I
yes,
make
and
their lives
all
easier
the
by making my
marketers
life
who are
easier?
listening, don't take this comment personally. None of you are lazy, and
No, no, that's not what we're saying.
I personally advocate using AI as much as possible to generate your idea to help you in the strategy part, if at all AI can. But always the human aspect should remain intact because marketing is also about consciousness, about human value, and we are only talking about artificial intelligence. Artificial consciousness is still not there. So till the time it is not there, let's continue to be human. Now the next part of the question, Amit, is related to your copy. Like you highlighted something algorithmic bias in AI generated copy. that was originated around cultures, around maybe languages, geographies. It is
Yeah.
because of the way it is trained, right? It's not that also somewhere it connects to the human aspect. But do you want to talk about what kind of biases you found, and maybe if today all the marketers are using AI, how they should be aware of those biases?
Yeah, so the biases part was actually really kind of interesting for me because I mean, we all kind of know that it's there, but I never really thought about it from an AI standpoint until like I started writing this slide deck where I was like, wait, no, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens everywhere. Like, what about those things? So there was actually a study done, I want to say like 2016. It was either 2000 or 2006 or 2016. I can't quite remember. I remember it was a six at the end. But it was Carnegie Mellon University that did a study where they were just kind of looking at what would show up for like men and women. And what they noticed is um, that high paying jobs were served to men more often than they were to women. And just in that, you could see that there was a bias, right? And that kind of just set off a bunch of other people doing a bunch of other tests and stuff like that. So then we see not great things in the sense of, you know, sexism and unfortunately racism and homophobia and stuff like that. So that's the thing that I don't think anybody, even myself, thought about prior to even this presentation for myself, was like those biases that are in the algorithm. Because if the information that we've given the AI is inherently biased, then the results that we're going to get back from AI are also going to be biased, and that's just because it's just perpetuating the skewed data that it has, right? So, um, in terms of how to like kind of mitigate that, it's obviously having human oversight over top of it, kind of looking at everything and trying to identify what those biases are. Sometimes I'll even just go back to the AI and ask if it has any biases in the copy, and sometimes it'll actually call itself out, which is kind of really funny and cool to have because then I don't have to, like, I mean, I still have to read it and still verify that it took out the content, but it's like significantly easier in that sense because it's already kind of pulled everything out. But then also just kind of teaching it in your own little way what is correct and what isn't. So sometimes it'll say, um, I don't want to say anything because all of them are horrible, but like it'll say something horrible and I'll sit there and be like, no, that's not correct. This is a lie. And oftentimes, sometimes I'll have it do exercises of writing posts for me or like an article for me, and I'll sit there and be like, that's a lie, that's a lie, please don't perpetuate this lie, don't do this. And I use it as like a training method for it because I'll sit there and be like, okay, well, if you don't have the right information, maybe I could be the one to give it to you. So it's just knowing that um, now that everything is public at this point, the AI systems are still learning from everything that we're doing. So just going back and actually giving it feedback is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Or at least I think it is. I've noticed it within like Claude, it'll double and triple check certain things because I've asked it to check it so many times that now it just knows that I'm that type of person who wants you to double check things. Um, so yeah, that's how we've been kind of combating that.
Yes, and so see, other important aspect of using AI in marketing or maybe in the ad copies and other stuff related to marketing is how good you are at supplying the data. And I think the biggest advantage for any marketer that is using AI is the first party data. Like how you train your AI to give you output is really matters. What you get out of a generic chat GPT prompt is like the average of the whole world. You don't need that. That's not going to help you. What is really going to work for you is your data, your output. So I mean that
Yeah,
is
my favorite
definitely
thing
the,
to say is garbage in, garbage out.
yeah.
Especially for AI really at this point, because if you're not, I think people get, part of me feels like people get too worked up about prompt engineering and
Mhm.
don't necessarily think about the information that needs to be added in. So for me, it's always constantly like, this is the audience, this is the platform, this is um, key things that they like to say, these are the things that they don't like to say, and I give it as much information I possibly can. So at that point, I've set it up for success. So if it comes back to me with incorrect information, I know that I wasn't the one that did it wrong. And I think that's where a lot of people are kind of missing the part where they'll be like, I gave it a prompt and it still gave me trash, but you didn't give it like that core piece of information that it needs.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, just remembering, just so like I almost treat it like it's my 5-year-old nephew. It's very step by step, where I'll be like, okay, first you're gonna go to the kitchen, then you're gonna go grab a piece of chocolate. Now you have to come back to me before you eat the chocolate, type of deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I just basically treat it like it's a 5-year-old.
Yeah, so maybe parents will be better user at AI if at all that can help. I mean, that's one positive side of being parents, but that's all right. Now, the other important aspect that you highlighted is AI not being able to understand the emotions, nuances, human psychology, because that's not their core. If at all it tries, it only pretends that they understand the emotions, or maybe they use certain words that humans are most often repeating when it comes to emotions or emotional connections. uh, and we are talking a lot about the humanizing aspect of AI generated ad copies or AI generated stuff content. How do you really see marketer getting succeed at this? I mean, with the AI generated copy, can you really humanize it, make it better, or it's just that, as you were already talking about, garbage in, garbage out?
I don't know if AI is ever gonna get to a place where it fully understands the usage of language. I do know that a lot of people have started using like the GPTs for like therapy, which
Mm-hmm.
has been really, really interesting. So I'm wondering if like having those incredibly frank conversations with a GPT might actually teach it how to talk in like a way that is like it would be passable for humans, like we wouldn't be able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really kind of interesting, and I don't really like no one's really talking about it. No one's really done any studies. I don't really know what the study would even look like if they were supposed to do that. So part of me is like, feels like if people continue to use it for therapy, I think there might be a chance
Mm-hmm.
because it'll be able to, because like AI is a pattern spotter,
Yeah.
basically, right? Like that's
Right.
basically, it's not creating objective truths for us. It's literally just spotting a pattern and then just reiterating that back to us. So I wonder if it'll start noticing patterns in the way people maybe talk about their depression or their anxieties, and
Mm-hmm.
that might help, you know, like a psychologist on the other end writing their ad copy. um yeah, it's kind of really interesting. I've been kind of entertaining that more in my head now that I know that people are using it for therapy, and I'm like, okay, so like
Wouldn't
I don't
that be
know,
too
I don't have a
dangerous?
great answer.
The other aspect is, maybe that would be too dangerous for people to like stay alone with chat gpt and use it as a
Well,
therapist,
there's people
right?
who have full on relationships with AI now. Like they
Yeah.
basically created a bot and that's like their girlfriend or their boyfriend. Like it's incredibly interesting, like the way that people are using it. And yeah, I don't know. I just keep on thinking if people are going to continue having these frank conversations, AI is going to be able to somehow figure it out.
Maybe that will be a dangerous or scary world for me. I mean, that's what I
Yeah,
feel
that's going to be
personally, but
terrifying for
that's,
me.
yeah, that the, everyone can have their own opinions about this. Now, applying your own data to AI, like maybe some data related to the ad performance, click through rates, and then training the AI to create better ad copies, to which can perform better than what the performance is already there.
Yeah, on that front, we basically, I feel like I just don't think right now we're in a place where AI ad copy is going to perform better, but I do feel like we're in a place where AI with human is going to perform better.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the next test is human versus human plus AI instead and take AI completely out of the equation. Or I
Yep.
mean, the sole use of AI completely out of the equation. Um, and I think that might be something that's really interesting because what I've noticed is when I've used AI to collaborate, my output is significantly better. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because I've been using it for like let's say my writing in terms of finding those gaps and stuff like that. It's helping me improve that. So now even when I'm writing, I'm thinking about all of these other random things that AI has now taught me to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think. I think there's improvements. It's just more of like how, like, I don't think I would use AI to improve my writing, specifically my writing. I think I would use it to help my research. Actually, that's a good way to put it. I like
Yep.
using it to help my research, not
Yeah.
necessarily my writing.
Yeah. So the other aspect, which is the completely different from what you have done in the study and all, that is how PPCs, which direction is it heading in 2025 with all the AI and stuff? Like there's a lot of space taken by AI overview right now. The
Hmm.
search, obviously, the search share is also declining though. So my expectation, like, is overall the performance of the keyword queries and the search queries will significantly decline, and there will
Yeah, and
be.
I think we're seeing that even with like the new changes with Search Max coming out and stuff like that. That was
Mhm,
something, I mean, we knew it was coming. I just didn't think it was actually going to be released as quickly as it was.
mhm,
And that's a common conversation that I feel like all of us are having is just like, is there a place for keywords in 2025? And
mhm.
um, right now, I'm going to say yes. I don't think that that's going to age well, unfortunately. Like, I just feel
Yeah.
like that's just not a statement that's not going to age well. Um, just because in my initial thoughts when I was even talking about what will happen in 2025 in December of 2024 was, oh, in 2027 is when I kind of see things kind of completely moving to a keywordless era type of
Mhm,
deal. But now with Search Max being put out sooner than I thought it was going to, that might be speeding up the timeline significantly.
yep.
And I don't really know exactly what that looks like quite yet. But the one thing that we are realizing, it's more about intent and less about the keyword in itself. So it's just interesting. It's just very interesting. I think I get worried about um, like search volume in terms of that, just because a lot of it's going to like the GPTs now.
Mhm,
And again, like they don't create real information.
yep.
Sometimes it's completely false, and the regular consumer is not going to think to sit there and be like, okay, I need to get it to verify that this information is correct. I need to ask it for its source. I need to do all of these things. They're not doing that anymore, or not even anymore. They're not doing that, period. So that's where I get a little scared. If people are just using it just for shopping and stuff like that, then that's an interesting new avenue or new channel for us to kind of go down and look at.
Mhm,
But I think I get more scared on the long tail type of queries where I'm like, okay, but there's a specific business that could help with this, and now you're going to take false information instead.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, that one's it's kind of hard. It's a little hard to conceptualize, but I don't know. I don't know if keywords are going to be as big or as crucial in a campaign by the end of this year anymore.
Okay. Search query that you currently see, organic plus commercial,
Yeah.
both kind of search queries are more performed on ChatGPT, Meta AI, and everywhere else. It
Hmm.
is directly impacting Google's search share when it comes to the commercial queries. Now we are talking about less and less of keywords. Do you think Meta AI or maybe ChatGPT launching their own search ad within the chat interface, or that is not possible for them?
I mean, ChatGPT's already kind of announced that they have Search GPT. I don't know if it's out yet,
Yeah, it is
but I
out,
know that
but
they
I
have
don't
said
think
that they're going to
many
be
people have
releasing it.
started using it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to flock to that. I think the recent reports came down saying that Google has this is the lowest market share that they've ever had in their
Mm-hmm.
history or in recent history, I should say, actually. And that was what reading that report really was terrifying to me because I was like, oh my gosh, all I've ever known is Google in my like I've been in the industry for 16 years and all I've ever known is Google. Um, so that's a little terrifying just to think about it from that standpoint, but yeah, search. I do see a lot of people using Search GPT over Google, and that's mainly because I think of the ads side of things. But I just don't know. I feel like if if GPT continues to perform that it is the way that it is right now, I have a hunch that people are going to go back to Google because they're going to want more like very specific answers to their questions that GPT is not answering correctly just because it just doesn't know how to. Um, So I kind of question it where I'm like, okay, is there a place for this to kind of tip over where Google gets back all of their market share? And that has a lot of it has to do with like obviously government regulations on AI, whether or not, I think at one point Italy banned ChatGPT when it first came out. I don't know if that's still true. Other countries might do that. We don't know. The
Yeah.
US might do that. We don't know. Um, so then I think about it from that standpoint where this is just so new that I don't know if we're going to still have this 5 years down the road. So it's kind of hard for me to future plan for all of this because I'm like, could this just be a fad for the next year or two where we're all like AI, AI, and then eventually it just kind of completely blows up and dies in front of us? Because that's entirely plausible. So yeah, it's kind of like that was kind of an answer, but a non-answer at the same time.
Yeah. All right, Amit. So I think we already been in the episode for almost 40 minutes.
Mhm.
So thank you so much. And in case you have any parting remarks, anything you want to share before we officially close the conversation.
Oh my gosh. I think I would say don't be scared to use AI. I just wouldn't encourage people to use it as their sole like thing that they do. It's just like if you're writing ad copy, please have someone review it. If
Mhm.
you're asking it information for whatever it might be, verify it. Um, just continue to think like a marketer and an analyst when you're using GPTs is basically the last parting thing that I want to say to
Thank you. Thank you
everyone.
so much, Amit. It was really nice talking to you. And thank you guys listening so far. Make sure you subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast wherever you're listening from. And thank you once again, Amit. It was really
Of
nice
course.
talking to you. Take care.
Thanks. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
Bye.